Many countries use specific landmarks to symbolize the extent of their territories, and China is no exception. Young students in China learn that the country's modern territory spans from the shores of Ussuri River in the east to the peaks of Pamir Mountains in the west. Geographically, China crosses over 60 degrees of longitude, or 5 time zones. But in an act to promote national unity, the entire country uses the standard Beijing time based on UTC plus 8, making it easily the most populous time zone in the world. In this video, we chase the sun 6,880 kilometers across the full width of China's rail network. Witness the incredible tapestry of landscape and culture as we travel from China's easternmost train station to its westernmost one, all via a variety of trains. Our journey begins in the town of Fuyuan in the far eastern tip of China. Fuyuan is located on flat plains near the confluence of Heilongjiang and Ussuri. These rivers provided sustenance to various fishing and hunting tribes native to this land, and fishing remains an important economic activity here to this day. Current population of the town is about 80,000. Fuyuan has a riverside promenade where you can see the wilderness of Russian Far East across Heilongjiang, or Amur River. There's also a pretty sizable border crossing port here. It looks empty now, but there are international ferries that connect Fuyuan with several destinations over on the Russian side, including Khabarovsk about 60 kilometers downstream. For those who are interested, there's also a day tour out of Fuyuan's bus terminal that takes visitors onto Heixiazi Island, where China's physical easternmost point is located. This is Fuyuan Railway Station, the easternmost passenger train station in the entire Chinese rail network. This station opened at the end of 2012 together with the rail line to Fuyuan itself. The station building is enormous, though there are not many commercial facilities inside. It's not surprising, as Fuyuan Station is only served by 2 pairs of trains per day. The train we will be taking for the first leg of the journey is the K7066 from Fuyuan to Harbin Dong, scheduled to depart at 16:45. The K7066 will take us 973 kilometers through expansive nature and rich farmlands of China's far northeast. The train set is already stopped on Platform 1, as it is the very train that ran the reverse K7065 service that brought me here earlier this morning. We wait a bit more, then boarding started about 10 minutes before the indicated departure time. The train will be pulled out of the station by this Dongfeng 11 diesel-electric locomotive, manufactured by CRRC Qishuyan factory in 1997. The rest of the train consists of Type 25G carriages. I got a space in the so-called soft sleeper car with 4 bed compartments in a couchette arrangement. The lower berth cost me 351 Chinese yuan. The internal facilities are not brand new, but quite functional and comfortable enough. At 16:45, the K7066 rolled out of station on time, beginning our 6,880 kilometer odyssey across UTC plus 8. It was raining a little earlier, but now the setting sun lights up a few clouds as our train rounds the easternmost railway tracks of China. A bit more than 10 minutes after departure, we pass Fuyuan Dong Station. This is technically the easternmost train station in all of China, though it is cargo only. The area we're passing now is called the Sanjiang Plain. Meaning three rivers in Chinese, it is where the Amur, the Ussuri, and the Songhua rivers come together. It used to have large stretches of wetlands and marshes. Combined with extreme climate in the winter, historically it could not support large population and was used as a destination of exile. In the later decades of 20th century, a state-led persistent land reclamation project transformed the area into one of China's most important agricultural regions, with major crops being soybeans, wheat, and rice. We are in fact passing these endless rice fields right before their early October harvest, much of which would ship out on cargo trains. Many passengers started to have dinner around this time. The guy on the opposite bunk tonight was very kind and shared his food with me. We had a fun conversation over beer, peanuts, and pork knuckles. Good morning on day 2 of our journey. The train is just rolling out of Suihua Station around 5:40. The sun rises rather early here and it is already very much bright outside. Suihua is an important agricultural city in central Heilongjiang province with 3.7 million residents. After Suihua, our train switches onto the Binbei line for the final 125 kilometers to Harbin. Originally opened in 1927, this rail line was domestically funded and constructed, a relative rarity in an era of Russian and Japanese imperialism. At 6:46, the train makes a brief technical stop at Hulan Station on the northern edge of Harbin. Today a city of 10 million residents, Harbin's modern history began as a railway boomtown more than a century ago. Although the area had been inhabited for thousands of years, what is today Harbin was just a collection of villages along Songhua River in the late 19th century, a time when China was under pressure from a number of imperialist powers. In 1896, the Russian Empire signed a secret treaty with the then reigning Qing dynasty of China, allowing Russia to build railways through northeastern China and obtain extraterritorial rights on lands along the route. Russian surveyors chose Harbin to be the headquarters of the China Eastern Railway, and the settlement quickly grew into an international city. Russia and Japan vied for the China Eastern Railway continuously during the first half of 20th century. China was only able to resume exercising full sovereignty over the railway and lands next to it in 1952, after the defeat of Japan in World War II and the establishment of the People's Republic. Even today, Russian cultural influence is still apparent throughout the streets of Harbin. At 7:34, the K7066 arrives at platform 4 of Harbin Dong Station. First opened in 1934, Harbin Dong's current station building was constructed in 1984, with the latest renovation done in 2016. The next part of the trip departs from Harbin Station in city center, so we'll use the metro to cover the 8-kilometer section. Incidentally, the Harbin metro station that accesses Harbin Dong used to be both the northernmost and easternmost metro station in all of China between 2013 and 2021, when newly opened stations in the Harbin metro system took over the titles. The interior of the metro station is modern with a hint of classical designs, which I quite like. Originally opened in 1899, Harbin Station was the heart of the China Eastern Railway system. The station building was upgraded to a grand Art Nouveau structure in 1904 and became a prominent landmark of the city. Due to increasing passenger flow, the 1904 station building was demolished in 1959 and replaced with more mundane buildings for a few decades. Then, starting in 2014, Harbin Station underwent a major renovation, with the station building restored in the 1904 Art Nouveau style. As part of the project, the Holy Iveron Icon Church next to the station was also rehabilitated. The church, also locally known as the Saint Yvel, was originally built in 1908 for use by Russian military personnel. The church fell into disrepair during the second half of 20th century until it was reported on by local media in the late 1990s and subsequently declared a protected landmark. After a standard ticket check and security screening, we head upstairs for the departure lobby. It is a large open space, and the multitude of arches gives it a classy touch. There are also a few restaurants on the mezzanine level. Back on the departure level, our train G908 departs from platform 10 today. Unlike the nostalgic conventional train we were just on, the G908 is a proper high-speed service coming from Qiqihar about 280 kilometers further north. We will travel 1,242 kilometers southwest on this train to Beijing, with 4 hours 47 minutes of scheduled runtime for an average speed of 260 kilometers per hour. Boarding started about 15 minutes prior to the indicated departure time. Similar to the station building, the train shed is also reminiscent of a large European station. Our train rolled into platform 10 at 10:36 on time. It is composed of two coupled CR400BF-GZ EMUs, both manufactured by CRRC Changchun in 2021. They are capable of 350 kilometers per hour in commercial service and have cold and sandstorm-resistant features for operation in China's vast northern reaches. My carriage happens to be a cafe car where the food service counter takes up about half the space. The remainder is second-class seats with 3+2 layout. It's fairly comfortable with seats that tilt back and a slight headrest. There is a functional tray table and seat back pocket. There is also a USB port for charging. A seat to Beijing here costs 598 Chinese yuan. At 10:40, the G908 departs Harbin station on time.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the tickets of Fuxing Annual Train of China Railway Harbin Bureau from Limited.
In just a few minutes, we pass Harbin Xi Station to the southwest of city center. Opened in 2012, this is another major station where many high-speed services depart from. Many rail lines split off, and beyond here, our train picks up speed as it passes towns and endless farmlands. This train has dedicated luggage storage racks at the ends of the cars. Hot water dispenser is available as is standard on all Chinese trains. The restrooms look clean and well stocked. There is also a handicap restroom with extra space for those who might need it. The train is running above 300 kilometers per hour now, though noise is pretty well controlled in the cabin and you won't really feel any rolling or shaking on board. We are now approaching the city of Changchun, capital of Jilin province. Today a city of 9 million inhabitants, Changchun first became connected to rail transport through the China Eastern Railway in 1903. Just 2 years later, in 1905, at the end of the Russo-Japanese War, the two sides concluded the Treaty of Portsmouth, by which the China Eastern Railway south of Changchun was transferred to Japan and became the original South Manchuria Railway. Changchun would also later serve as the capital of the so-called Manchu Kuo, a Japanese puppet regime between 1932 and 1945. After the establishment of the People's Republic of China, Changchun became one of the nation's most important centers for heavy industry, pioneering China's automotive and rail transport manufacturing since the 1950s. Indeed, this very train we're traveling on right now is produced at the CRRC factory in Changchun. The station we're stopping at is Changchun-Si, or Changchun West Station.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the
We are now passing the city of Siping. Siping saw 4 intense battles and was mostly destroyed during the Chinese Civil War in the late 1940s, but it has since been rebuilt into a city of 1.8 million people with active agriculture and industries. After Siping, we enter Liaoning province. The train is slowing down for the next stop, Tielingxi Station. Tieling is historically known as a silver mining town. Today a city of 2.8 million residents, its main economic activities include corn farming and heavy industries. Tieling is not too far from the major city of Shenyang, the capital of Liaoning province and our next stop. During the rise of Qing dynasty in the 17th century, Manchu bannermen captured Shenyang in 1621 after defeating Ming dynasty forces in the pivotal Battle of Sarhu 2 years earlier. Shenyang then served as the Manchu capital between 1625 and 1644, when the Qing captured Beijing and moved the capital there. The imperial palace in Shenyang still remains intact and is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Today a city of 9 million people, Shenyang is a prominent center of heavy industry, entertainment, and sports. The Shenyang Base Station we're stopping at now traces its history back to the Liaoning Main Station opened in 1931. Originally built by Chinese in competition with the Japanese-controlled Fengtian, later Shenyang Station nearby. The yellow EMU across from us is a high-speed inspection car. This particular unit is manufactured by CRRC Changchun specifically for use in very cold environment. The tracks immediately after Shenyang Base Station are the stage of another dramatic episode in 20th century Chinese history. In the 1920s, the Chinese warlord Zhang Zuolin was the de facto leader of northeastern China. He had a largely independent regime until a civil war with nationalist forces led by Chiang Kai-shek. As the nationalist forces continued to advance in early 1928, Zhang sued for peace, then left Beijing for his home base Shenyang by train on June 3rd. Zhang had had close relations with Japanese interests up to that time, but fearing the consolidation of various Chinese factions, the Japanese military moved to assassinate Zhang. When his train approached Shenyang the next morning, explosives planted by the Japanese military blew up the tracks, fatally wounding Zhang Zuolin, who would die hours later. This shocking event would be a prelude to Japan's full-scale invasion of Manchuria in 1931 and the rest of China through 1945. The train is now quickly picking up speed. In this section, it would run around 340 kilometers per hour. The ride remains exceptionally quiet and smooth even at this speed. The flat plains begin to transition to hills beyond here, as we enter a series of mountain ranges between northeastern China and Beijing. Historically, the main route between the two regions runs closer to the coastline and eventually through the famous Shanhai Guan, a narrow pass between the mountain and the sea at the very eastern terminus of the Great Wall. But modern technology allows us to run right through the terrain. We are now passing the city of Chaoyang on the western edge of Liaoning province. It is home to 2.8 million residents, including about 160,000 ethnic Mongol people. Historically, this area was the southern fringe of the Harbin banner, a Mongol tribe. We're entering the city of Chengde in northern Hebei province, still running through Yan Mountains that were historically the transition zone between nomadic and agricultural ways of life. Emperors in the early Qing dynasty saw potential in this strategic location and its cooler alpine climate. Over much of 18th century, successive emperors built a large complex of palaces and resorts as their summer residence away from Beijing's sweltering heat. Each summer, the emperor, together with his princes and bannermen, would organize large hunts to maintain the martial spirit of his court. They would also meet with Mongol nobles, who too preferred Chengde over Beijing's heat and urban congestion. Today, the Chengde Mountain Resort remains a popular tourist destination and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The train has now entered the administrative boundary of Beijing. We are now in the northeastern district of Miyun, which has a large reservoir that mitigates floods and provides drinking water to Beijing. The train has slowed down to around 240 kilometers per hour as it approaches Beijing city proper. The tracks run underground for a bit before we approach G908's final stop, Beijing Chaoyang Station. At 1527, the G908 arrives at platform 11 of Beijing Chaoyang Station. Beijing Chaoyang is a new hub opened in late 2021 on the east side of the city. A number of mosaics depicting high-speed trains next to some of Beijing's historical landmarks decorate the exit passage from the station. To go further west, we need to go to Beijing Xi Station on the west side of the city. We can of course do this transfer via the metro like we did in Harbin, but this time we go across Beijing on another China Railway train. Previously, this would not have been possible, as Beijing Xi was a literal terminal station and lacked a direct connection to railways further east. The situation was finally resolved in 2015 with the opening of the Beijing Underground Cross-City Railway, which tunnels 9.1 kilometers beneath city center.
Escalator or run on it.
We are taking the G964, one of the 3 daily trains running from Beijing Chaoyang to Beijing Xi via this connection. Although we will only be on this train for 22 kilometers, it actually originates from the city of Dandong over 900 kilometers away, right on the border with North Korea. Our train will come into platform 13. At 17:25, our G964 train came into station. It runs using a CR400AF-G EMU, manufactured by CRRC Qingdao Sifang in 2020. The second-class interior has a typical 3+2 seating arrangement and looks pretty nice. The seat tilts back and has a headrest. Leg space is decent, and of course there are tray tables and seat back pockets. Charging port is available between the seats. This train also has a cafeteria which serves boxed foods and snacks. In any case, we roll out of Beijing Chaoyang on time at 17:32 as the setting sun streams through between some distant buildings. Our train is capable of 350 kilometers per hour in commercial operation, but here we just leisurely stroll by the dense neighborhoods of East Beijing. Soon, we cross the second ring road and come into Beijing Station, the original central station of the national capital and the only active station within the now demolished city wall. The current station opened in 1959 as one of 10 public buildings built in Beijing to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the People's Republic of China. It was most recently renovated in 2022 and remains a prominent example of architectural fusion between socialist and traditional Chinese styles. The train stops here at platform 10 for about 15 minutes, so we can walk around a bit. After leaving Beijing Station, we go underground into the Cross-City Railway.
The next stop is Beijing Xi Railway Station.
In China, even tunnels in some rather remote places have cellular signal. So I was surprised to find no signal at all here, given that we're right underneath Beijing's city center. There is a magazine in the seatback pocket though, full of travel inspirations. A few minutes later, we come out of the tunnel, then arrive at platform 11 of Beijing Xi Station.
Railway Station.
Please.
The last rays of sunlight fade as I step out into the city. Good morning from Beijing Xi or Beijing West Railway Station on day 3 of the journey. Beijing Xi Station is quite recognizable even from a distance, as it features traditional style pavilions atop the main building. After a standard ticket check and security screening, we enter via an elevated platform directly into the departure lobby. Beijing Xi Station has a classic layout from the pre-high-speed rail era, with many individual waiting rooms connected by a long hallway. The train we will board soon is also a classic conventional service. In 1969, China Railway's 6970 service became the first train to directly connect the national capital Beijing with Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang in China's far northwest. At the time, it took 4 days and 4 nights to complete the journey. Subsequent versions of the train saw significant improvements both in speed and service levels. The current iteration is designated Z69 and carries passengers 3,144 kilometers westward in just over 31 hours. Today's D69 train departs from waiting room 3 near the station entrance. It's crowded but does have the basic facilities. There is also a separate seating area for passengers with higher class tickets, though it's not a proper lounge and no special food or drink is provided here. Boarding for the Z69 train started about 40 minutes prior to the indicated departure time. After ticket check, passengers go down to platform 1, where the train is waiting for us. Platform 1 here at Beijing Xi Station is very wide to allow for vehicle access and the occasional ceremonial use as needed. I will be boarding car 14, a Type 19T deluxe soft sleeper carriage. The interior looks pretty fresh. The soft sleeper car has 8 compartments, each with 2 berths plus a sofa and ensuite restroom inside. I got an upper bunk here, which cost me 1,577 Chinese yuan. There is a charging socket, and the reading light is working fine. This closet is handy for jackets and coats. The room also comes with disposable slippers. The onboard bathroom is clean and well stocked. Since we have a bit of time before departure, let's go have a look at our locomotive. For the first part of the journey, this Hexi D3D unit will be hauling us. This powerful unit will pull the train up to 160 kilometers per hour. At 10:19, the Z69 departs from Beijing Xi Station to begin its 3,144-kilometer journey to the west, passing rivers, mountains, and deserts across 7 provincial-level regions of China. Right after passing over the 5th Ring Road, our train crosses the Yongding River. This is a major river flowing 787 kilometers through northern China. A section of the river in southern Beijing is known as Lugo, literally meaning reed ditch, because large patches of reed once grew on its shores. The Lugo Bridge, also known as Marco Polo Bridge because the Venetian traveler spoke highly of it, spans the river there and is the site of a 1937 battle that marked the beginning of full-scale invasion into China by Imperial Japan. We have now crossed into Zhuozhou in Hebei province. This city of 700,000 is best known as the hometown of Liu Bei, the founder of the kingdom of Shu during the Chinese Three Kingdoms period. As Shu fought to nominally restore the Han Dynasty, Liu Bei is often portrayed as the leader of the good guys in literary and theatrical works that cover this era. We are now traversing through the middle of the North China Plain. It is the largest alluvial plain of China with an area around 300,000 square kilometers. Combined with a temperate continental climate, the North China Plain has been a key agricultural area central to Chinese civilization for millennia. The train is now approaching the city of Baoding, its first stop. Baoding was previously the capital of Hebei province until 1958. With 11.5 million residents, it remains the most populous city in the province. In 2017, several counties in eastern Baoding was designated as Xiong'an New Area, a planned smart city expected to alleviate some of Beijing's non-essential urban functions. Our train pulled into platform 6 of Baoding Station at 11:38. As the lunch trolley goes by, our train passes under the Beijing-Guangzhou high-speed rail. It is the world's longest high-speed line in operation and the fastest train go between Beijing and Guangzhou nearly 2,300 kilometers apart in just over 7 hours. We are now entering the outskirts of Shijiazhuang, the capital of Hebei province. This is Hutuo River, a key river on the North China Plain and is the primary water source of Shijiazhuang. The city had been inhabited since ancient times but only became the provincial capital in 1968. Today it has about 1.1 million residents and is known for textiles and pharmaceuticals. Our train would not enter the middle of Shijiazhuang though. Instead, it makes a westward turn to the north of the city, then begins the trek into Taihang Mountains. The Taihang Mountains extend over 400 kilometers, running roughly north to south from just west of Beijing to the north shore of the Yellow River. The range forms a natural boundary between the North China Plain and the elevated terrain in Shanxi province to the west. The Taihang Mountains feature prominently in many Chinese fables and mythology. One ancient story tells of a foolish old man who, annoyed at the mountains blocking the way from his village, decided to dig through the mountains and dump the earth to the sea using just simple shovels and baskets. When someone doubted the possibility of this project, the foolish old man replied that while he might not complete the task in his lifetime, as long as he and his descendants persevered over generations, the mountains would eventually be moved one day. His determination impressed the gods, who ordered the Taihang and Wangwu mountains moved to their current places. Because of the difficult terrain and strategic location, the 8 traditional passages through the Taihang Mountains have seen innumerable military campaigns over millennia. The original railway here in fact snakes along part of the fifth passage, though we're on a newer line with more bridges and tunnels. We're also not too far from the town of Xibaipo, where the Chinese Communist Party commanded the three decisive campaigns in the Chinese Civil War over 1948 and 1949, before relocating the central headquarters to Beijing. At 1406, the train comes into platform 1 of Yangquan Bay Station, our first stop in Shanxi province. This station is infamous for being 47 kilometers north of Yangquan city center, making it rather confusing and inconvenient for some travelers. In front of the station is a statue of Cheng Ying, a 6th century BCE historical figure and a character in the 13th century play The Orphan of Zhao, which is the first Chinese play to be translated and popularized in Europe. We are entering the eastern fringes of an area known as the Loess Plateau, with loess being a silt-like sediment formed by the accumulation of wind-blown dust. The thick loess can be suitable for agriculture, but as you can see, it is also susceptible to erosion. Over time, natural forces and human activities combine to form some striking sceneries. The train is now nearing the city of Taiyuan, the capital of Shanxi province. Historically known as Jinyang, Taiyuan and the mountains around it have been a central stage of the 1,000-year-long drama of war and peace between agricultural dynasties and nomadic tribes. The large fortress city straddles the Fen River and is the key crossroads of several valleys that connect northern pastures to the North China Plain and Central Plain. If a nomadic chief is able to capture Taiyuan and push forward, he would then be able to bring cavalry from the steppes and charge them downhill throughout northern China. This scenario had indeed played out several times throughout Chinese history, giving Taiyuan the nickname Longcheng, or the City of Dragons, for it is here that many warlords began their transformations into the Dragon of China. Today, Taiyuan is a city of 5.5 million people and an important industrial center for energy, metallurgy, and heavy machinery. Here, we're passing Taiyuan Nan Station. Across from us happens to be the Z70 train, covering the same route as our Z69, but in the opposite direction. Although we see a lot of farmlands here, Shanxi is in fact also a major coal mining region. Much of the coal produced here is hauled by freight cars similar to these. There is a dedicated freight line to transport coal from Datong in northern Shanxi east 650 kilometers to the seaport in Qinhuangdao. This Daqin line moves over 400 million tons of coal each year, more than any other railway in the world. The city of Fenyang we're passing now is famed for the production of fenjiu, a variety of Chinese spirit made using sorghum. It is traditionally considered one of the best nationwide, often ranking alongside the likes of Maotai. At 1642, the train stops at platform 1 of Luliang Station. This station is fairly new, open only in 2011. The city of 3.3 million is a mining center in western Shanxi, with coal and iron ore being major outputs. The train is now passing Liulinnan Station, the last in Shanxi province. At 1715, our train crosses the Yellow River, the ancient cradle of the Chinese civilization. West of the river is Shanxi province. The Romanized name looks very similar to the Shanxi province we just passed, but in Chinese it is pronounced with a different tone and is written with a different character. Soon we approach Widest Station and make our first stop in the province. The northern Shanxi we're in now is the core of the lowest plateau, with many hills and valleys. The region is home to a distinct folk culture that has come to represent farmers and working people more generally in China. At 1853, the train stops at platform 1 of Jingbian Station. This station entered into service in 2011. It got dark outside pretty quickly after this station. Many passengers are starting to have dinner now, so let's also pop open this cup noodle. The train is now pulling into platform 2 of Dingbian Station. We stop here for 15 minutes as we're running slightly ahead of schedule. The railway split from here, with a northern branch going to Yinchuan, the capital of Ningxia. We stay on the main branch though and head directly west to the next stop, Zhongwei, also in Ningxia. At 66.4 thousand square kilometers, Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region is one of the smaller provincial level areas of China, but it more than makes up for it in diversity. Its varied geography includes desert in the north and many mountain ranges throughout, including Helanshan to the north and Liupanshan to the south, both key military frontiers for much of Chinese history. In the year 1227, the great conqueror Chinggis Khan died at Liupanshan in modern Ningxia at the age of 66 in the midst of a campaign. Ningxia remains multi-ethnic today, with about 2/3 of the population being Han, about 1/3 being the Muslim Hui, and smaller numbers of Manchu, Miao, and Mongol peoples. A bit after 2200, we stop at platform 1 of Zhongwei Station not far from the northern banks of Yellow River. We are still running a few minutes early and will stop here for about 30 minutes for a locomotive change. All right, it's time to head back on board and wash up for the night. The upper bunk space is still pretty good. Plenty of leg space and head space for me. Good morning from near Jiayuguan Station on day 4 of our journey. It's a few minutes past 6:30, but the sky is still basically dark as we're in the western portion of China's massive UTC +8. Overnight, we traversed through the cities of Wuwei, Jinchang, and Zhangye, all famous stops along the Hexi corridor. The Hexi corridor is one of the most strategic and legendary geographic passages in Chinese and even world history. Hexi in Chinese means west of the river, with river here referring to the Yellow River. It extends for over 1,000 kilometers between the lowest plateau to the east and the Tarim Basin to the west. Sandwiched between the towering Qinghai Tibet Plateau and the desolate Gobi Desert, the narrow Hexi corridor is the only passage between central China and the western regions fit for proper caravans and armies. Fed by glacial waters from the Qilian Mountains to the south, several rivers and oases dot the corridor, making it relatively arable and suitable for settlement as well. Due to this geography, the Hexi corridor has been the site of cultural exchanges across Eurasia for millennia. In prehistoric times, millet farmers from the lowest plateau settled the corridor and spread their crop westward to the rest of Eurasia and Africa, while wheat and barley entered China through the corridor from the Fertile Crescent. Later, silk, tea, papermaking, grapes, carrots, and watermelon would all make their ways through the corridor. By the early Han Dynasty in 2nd century BCE, the corridor had become a front line in the war between the Han and Xiongnu, a nomadic empire to the north. Emperor Wu of Han first sent a mission led by Zhang Qian in 138 BCE to seek allies in the west against the Xiongnu. Zhang Qian traveled through the Hexi corridor to the oasis states in the Tarim Basin, then went further over the Onion Range, today known as the Pamir Mountains, to reach the Fergana Valley where Alexandria Escate, the furthest outpost of the Greek world, was located. He brought numerous artifacts and detailed information of these western regions back to the Han imperial court. Armed with this knowledge and inspired by the world beyond, the emperor then dispatched the 19-year-old general Huo Qubing on a series of military campaigns, who in 121 BCE decisively defeated the Xiongnu in the Hexi corridor, incorporating the region into the Chinese Empire and opening the way for the Silk Road. With these victories, the Han also took over rich grazing grounds perfect for raising military horses. This Shandan horse farm endured over the ages and is directly managed by the Chinese state to this day. To guard the imperial frontier, the Han Dynasty constructed the Great Wall along the north side of Hexi corridor. The wall was further augmented by the Ming Dynasty in the 14th century, who built Jiayuguan as the western terminus of the fortification. Legend has it that the architect of Jiayuguan precisely calculated the project to need 99,999 bricks. The official in charge of procurement wondered if that would be enough, so the architect added 1 to the total and ordered an even 100,000 bricks. When the fort was completed, there was exactly 1 brick left over. This extra brick is then placed on the backside of a gate, where it remains to this day. The train is now running through Dunhuang, historically the westernmost of the 4 counties established in the Hexi corridor by the Han Dynasty. It is a major stop on the Silk Road and the location of Yumenguan and Yangguan, 2 passes at the end of Han Dynasty Great Wall that demarcate the western regions. These passes became romanticized symbols of the imperial frontier and the subject of everlasting poetry, recited throughout the Sinosphere to this day. Hexi Corridor is also a main passage through which Buddhism entered China. Dunhuang itself is best known for the nearby Mogao Caves, a series of temples and grottos containing the most comprehensive collection of Buddhist art spanning over 1,000 years between the 4th and 14th centuries CE. Shortly after 8 o'clock, our train pulls into platform 4 of Yumen Station. The landscape becomes increasingly desolate west of here, though rows of desert poplar trees often run along the railway. These poplars are said to last 3,000 years, living for 1,000 years before dying, then standing for 1,000 years before falling, finally 1,000 more years before rotting away. You can see some farms next to the railway as we're in an oasis region near Shule River. It is a major endorheic river originating in the Qilian Mountains, flowing west toward Lop Nur, a dried-up salt lake in Tarim Basin. Shule River's flow varies significantly throughout the year. We're crossing a dry riverbed now, which might have had some water during summer. The land outside seems to become more barren by the minute. There are some occasional houses, but also many abandoned ruins. At 9:37, we come to a technical stop at Liuyuan Station, the last major station in Gansu province. On the side of the station building, a mural depicts the diverse peoples and cultures that once traversed the Silk Road. We're passing the cargo-only Hongliuhe Station. Immediately beyond here, we officially enter the administrative boundary of Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. At over 1.6 million square kilometers, Xinjiang is the largest provincial-level region of China, accounting for about 1/6 of China's total land area. Although Uyghur is in the region's official name, Xinjiang has always been multi-ethnic and multicultural since ancient times. Current demographic makeup of the region is about 45% Uyghur, 40% Han, 7% Kazakh, 5% Hui, and smaller numbers of Kyrgyz, Mongol, and Tajik peoples, etc. The earliest inhabitants of modern-day Xinjiang may have been Indo-European-speaking tribes, though their cultures have long disappeared. After defeating Xiongnu to the north and Dayuan in Fergana Valley decades earlier, The Han Dynasty established the Western Region's Protectorate in 60 BCE, ruling much of present-day Xinjiang. Later, the Tang Dynasty would establish the Anxi Protectorate in 640 CE and Beijing Protectorate in 702 CE, controlling all of present-day Xinjiang and vast lands beyond it deep into Central Asia. However, much of the Tang military garrison in the western regions would be redeployed east to fight in the Anlushan Rebellion that began in 755. The Tibetan Empire then conquered the Hexi corridor, cutting off Anxi and Beijing from the rest of Tang territories. By the turn of the 9th century, the two protectorates would fall as well. During this time, Tibetan Buddhism spread widely into Central Asia and the Mongolian plateau. As the Tibetan Empire collapsed in the mid-9th century, predecessors of the modern Uyghur people migrated from the Mongolian plateau to the western regions, establishing a number of regimes. One of them, the Karakhanid Khanate, adopted Islam in 932 via contact with the Persian Samanid Empire, initiating the history of Islam in the western regions. By the 17th century, the Drungar Khanate, a nomadic regime of Oirat Mongol origin, controlled the western regions and made further expansions into lands around it. This brought it into conflict with the ascendant Qing dynasty. The two fought a series of bitter wars spanning 70 years all over Asia, from open Mongolian grasslands to the sky-high Tibetan plateau. The conflict culminated in the final Qing victory over Drungar in 1758, after which the Qing named the area Western Region's New Frontier, or Xiyu Xinjiang. Later shortened to just Xinjiang, this is where the region's modern name comes from. If you notice the increase in vegetation outside, that's because we're now nearing the oasis city of Hami. With large temperature variations and plenty of sunshine, this area is famous for raisins, wine, and especially melons since ancient times. Here we're passing by patches of chili peppers being dried. In addition to flavoring foods, some chili peppers will also go into the production of lipsticks and other cosmetics. Cotton is also widely planted in Xinjiang due to favorable climate. Modern cotton farming in Xinjiang is highly mechanized, with satellite-guided driverless combines, smart irrigation, and real-time drone monitoring. At 12:21, the train pulls into Platform 5 of Hami Station, our first stop in Xinjiang. We are once again running ahead of schedule, so we'll stop here for about 30 minutes. There is an engineer change at this station. Beyond Hami Station, the Z69 switches onto the Lanzhou-Xinjiang high-speed railway. We're still on a conventional train and won't be going faster than 160 kilometers per hour, but the ride is marginally smoother. It's around lunchtime, so let's head back to the dining car again. I got a box lunch for 30 Chinese yuan. It tasted okay, but nothing too special. It is windy everywhere out here on the Gobi, but where we're passing now is especially known for strong gusts that can occasionally break windows and even topple rail cars. Because of this, some sections of the railway are protected by a wind barrier. It is around 1500 now, and we're in Shanshan County. Shanshan was formerly a Buddhist kingdom and a Chinese vassal state in the western regions. It is the site of the ruins of Lowland, an oasis city that once flourished on Silk Road trade but later taken by the desert due to climate change. The Shanshan base station we're stopping at now is a relatively new station opened in 2014 along with the Lanxin HSR. West of here is the Turfan Basin, where the desert heat is so intense it is said you can bake a naan on bare rocks under the sun. Locals use a system of underground tunnels called keras to prevent evaporation of the preciously little water they have access to. It is also the site of the Flaming Mountains, or Huoyan Shan, featured in one of the most popular stories in the 16th century fantasy novel Journey to the West. In the story, as the monk Tang Sanzang and his entourage made their way to India, they were blocked by the raging fires of the Flaming Mountains. Tang Sanzang's disciple Sun Wukong, also known as the Monkey King, found out that Princess Iron Fan living nearby possessed a magical fan that could quell the flames. After multiple rounds of trickery and fighting, Sun Wukong finally obtained the magical fan from the princess and used it to extinguish the Flaming Mountains, allowing them to pass through while also bringing much needed rain and fair winds to the local farmers. We're in the final stretch of this train now. But before we make it to Urumqi, we need to cross the main ridge of the Tian Shan. Meaning mountain of the sky, Tian Shan is a massive mountain range stretching 2,500 kilometers from western China into Central Asia. It splits Xinjiang into the more arid southern portion and the relatively wetter northern portion. With population of over 4 million, Urumqi is the most distant major city away from the sea. The nearest sea to Urumqi is the Bay of Bengal, some 2,250 kilometers away, with the whole of Qinghai Tibet Plateau and the Himalayas in between. Although Urumqi is the capital of Xinjiang today, its history as a city is actually rather short. The name Urumqi is traditionally understood to mean beautiful pasture, and for much of history it was just that, a rich grazing ground. In 1755, the Qing dynasty established a military garrison here, taking advantage of the pasture to support its cavalry. At that time, Xinjiang's political center was the Ili River Valley 500 kilometers to the west, where the Qing military governor was based. More than a century later, the Qing would falter under a litany of internal and external crises. The Russian Empire occupied large stretches of northwestern Xinjiang in early 1860s and formalized its territorial gains in the 1864 Treaty of Tarbahati. This pushed the border eastward and put the Ili River Valley in an indefensible position. After General Zuo Zongtang led the Qing reconquest of Xinjiang in 1877, the region was reorganized as a province, moving the capital in 1884 to Urumqi, where it would stay. At 1728, the Z69 finally arrives at platform 16 of Urumqi station. The current Urumqi railway station was previously a cargo stop on the conventional Lanzhou-Xinjiang Railway. Together with the construction of the Lanzhou-Xinjiang high-speed railway, it was upgraded to a major passenger station with the renovation completed in 2016. Above the entrance area, decorations depicting various cities and sites of Xinjiang surround the approaching passengers. On the upper level is a spacious departure lobby. It's pretty crowded, but looks like I can still find a seat if I walk around a bit. Many restaurants are located on the mezzanine level. Our train today is the Z6516, departing from Urumqi Station and bound for Kashgar Station. This express service began running in the summer of 2022. At 1.6 million square kilometers, Xinjiang is more than 4 times the size of Germany, and our train service is a good illustration of just how vast Xinjiang is. The straight line distance between Urumqi and Kashgar is about 1,070 kilometers, while the railway is limited by geography and runs a slight detour of 1,453 kilometers. This is roughly on par with Paris to Warsaw or London to Vienna. The conventional train set covers this route in just 11.5 hours without any intermediate stop, translating to a scheduled speed of 126 kilometers per hour. On platform 5, the train is already waiting for us. This Hexi D1D electric locomotive from Urumqi Bureau will haul us out of this station. This train only has sleeper carriages. I got a soft sleeper lower berth, which cost 497.5 Chinese yuan. The soft sleeper is arranged as 4-bed compartments. The interior is clean and comfortable. Bedding is initially folded and placed on the upper bunks. There is a charging port under the table, and of course the personal reading lights are working fine. You can use the hook or bar for small items, while larger luggage can go under the lower bunk or above the door. It's still a few minutes before departure, so let's have a quick look around. There is a separate washroom with 3 sinks. This one is clean and well stocked as well. And how can we miss the hot water dispenser? We'll be coming back here in a bit. At 2040, the Z6516 departs Urumqi station on time. Just a few minutes later, the train passes Urumqi Nan station. This used to be the main station of the city until 2014 when it was renamed. It now serves as an auxiliary station for both passengers and cargo. In addition to being a sleeper-only express, this train also has a lounge car, which, as far as I know, is pretty rare in China Railway. It would be quite nice to have a drink here and enjoy the sceneries during the day, but obviously there is not much of a view on this overnight service. The lounge car does not serve proper food, so let's head back and pop open a cup noodle. A bit more than an hour after departure, we come to a long technical stop near Daheyan Station. We have crossed onto the south side of Tian Shan, the massive mountain range cutting across Xinjiang. Our train had been going southeast up until here, but would now change direction and head west. At 2222, we start moving again and reverse onto the line to Kashgar. A bit after 2300, our train passes Urumqi station. A secondary rail line splits from here. It is supposedly known for beautiful sceneries along the route, but after 2015, passenger trains no longer use it. Good morning from Western Xinjiang on day 5, the final day of our journey. We are approaching the city of Kashgar shortly after 7 o'clock, but you can't tell that by looking out the window. As we're in the far western parts of China's UTC+8 time zone, the local astronomical or solar time here is about 3 hours behind the official Beijing time. There is an unofficial Xinjiang time, which is a 2-hour offset from Beijing time, but even that would still be 1 hour ahead of the solar time in Kashgar. The train is passing Artush Station 36 kilometers east of Kashgar. West of Artush, there is an enormous stone arch known as the Sky Portal locally, or Shipton's Arch in English after mountaineer Eric Shipton. At approximately 500 meters in height, it is often considered the tallest natural arch in the world. At 8:14, the train rolls into platform 1 of Kashgar Station. The sky is just beginning to dawn as I step off onto the platform full of excited travelers. 有一定的间距，为了保证您的安全，请旅客们在下车时要注意脚下的安全，特别是带小孩的旅客。 Kashgar, also shortened to Kashir in modern Chinese, is an oasis city with over 2,000 years of history. Kashgar's strategic location at the foot of the Tian Shan mountain range and the western fringe of Taklamakan Desert makes it a natural nexus connecting east and west. The northern and southern routes of the Silk Road from central China converge here, and from here the Silk Road crosses the Pamir Mountains to the west towards Samarkand, the Persian heartland, and eventually the Mediterranean world. The city also lies 200 kilometers north of Tashkurgan, through which Buddhism entered China via the Wakang corridor. The earliest historical records of Kashgar comes from Chinese explorations of the Silk Road during the Han Dynasty. After defeating Xiongnu to the north and Dayuan in Fergana Valley decades earlier, the Han Dynasty established the Western region's protectorate in 60 BCE, incorporating Kashgar, then known as Shule, into the empire. Later, the Tang Dynasty would establish the Anxi Protectorate in 640 CE in modern-day Xinjiang, with Shule as one of the 4 main military garrisons. Around mid-9th century, predecessors of the modern Uyghur people migrated from the Mongolian plateau to the western regions, establishing a number of regimes. One of them, the Karakhanid Khanate, adopted Islam in 932 via contact with the Persian Samanid Empire. Kashgar would serve as a Karakhanid capital from 1130 to 1211. By the late 17th century, Kashgar would come under the Drungar Khanate. It would be defeated by the Qing dynasty in 1758, after which the Qing controlled Kashgar and all the trading routes around it. After a century of relative peace, Kashgar and large parts of Xinjiang would be invaded and occupied by Yakub Beg, a military leader from the Kokand Khanate in modern-day Uzbekistan. His rule in Kashgar would last from 1865 to 1877, when the Qing general Zuo Zongtang led the reconquest of Xinjiang. Zuo Zongtang is a native of Hunan province, and to commemorate his achievement, 20th century Hunan chefs in New York City named a sizzling chicken dish after him. Now, General Tso's chicken is a favorite in many parts of the world. Today, Kashgar remains centered around trade and commerce. The city of around 800,000 residents hosts many large markets and bazaars that attract visitors from near and far. This connectivity in turn spurs growth in areas such as logistics, manufacturing, and tourism. The bustling old town of Kashgar still maintains a vibrant multicultural atmosphere, making it a fascinating destination. After spending some time in Kashgar, we return to the train station for the short hop to Akto County, where China Railway's westernmost station is located. In front of Kashir Station, there is a replica of the flying horse, the original of which is a bronze statue from 2nd century BCE. Unearthed in 1969, it is now a national treasure of international fame. After clearing ticket check and security screening, you can see some lighting decorations depicting tourist sites in the area. Kashir Station first opened in 1999, with the latest renovation taking place in 2016. It's not the biggest station, but does have the basic facilities and plenty of seating area. There are a couple of small convenience stores tucked away in the corners, but don't expect too much more than that. The train we're taking is the China Railway 7557 service, originating in Urumqi and bound for Hetian in southern Xinjiang. This is a slow local train calling at 20 intermediate stops along its 1,996 kilometer route, though we will only be on it for a short while. The train rolled into Platform 1 a bit after 1600, and boarding started soon after. The timetable has the 7557 stopping at Kashgar for 23 minutes. Turns out, there is a locomotive change at this station.
带小孩的旅客一定要照看好您的牌子，不要让小朋友在坐着火车游新疆。天山雪莲提醒您。
I happened to be traveling during the busy National Day season, and boy oh boy was this a crowded train. Technically, I did have a seat here, but I didn't even try to go and claim it. I'll only be on the train for about half an hour, so best to just leave it to someone who needs the seat more. The 7557 train departed Kashgar station 1 minute late at 16:26. On the outskirts of the city, there are some traditional houses near the tracks. These buildings are made of earth and supported by pillars and beams made from local poplar trees. They may look modest, but are in fact well suited to the local climate, and some last for generations. At 1640, the train comes to a technical stop at Shule Station. Here we cross paths with the 7558, our very train but in the opposite direction from Hetian to Urumqi. We passed the westernmost railway tracks in the entire China railway network just before 1700. And very shortly after, the train rolls into Akto Station, the westernmost train station in all of China. Akto Station has not held the title for long, as the station only opened in 2011 together with the railway to Hotan. Interestingly, Akto Station may not stay as the westernmost station for too much longer either. Since 2024, China, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan have begun constructing a new international railway that would connect Kashgar with the city of Anjiyan in Fergana Valley. Perhaps there would be stations still further west in China once this line is completed. Within walking distance from Akto Station, there is a small riverside park built around a former Qing-era fort. A big thanks to all the conductors, engineers, crew, and maintenance staff that made this amazing trip possible. And thank you for taking the time to chase the sun 6,880 kilometers across China with me. I really hope you enjoyed this journey through grand landscapes and epic history. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more transit and travel content. Have a great day and see you in the next one.
一起歌